Coming up next on Tech News Today, tech companies go to Washington, D.C. to see if they can improve some of the systems there. Also, Time Warner will make exclusive content for Snapchat. Google's ramping up its efforts to fight the spread of terrorist content on YouTube. American voter data was apparently hanging out on a cloud server for the whole world to see. And even Nadella is getting in on the machine learning craze. All that and more coming up next on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1792, recorded Monday, June 19th, 2017. This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Home plays a big role in your life. That's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. It lets you apply simply and understand the entire mortgage process fully so you can be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you. Get started at rocketmortgage.com/TNT.
Welcome to Tech News Today. This is the show where we tell you what you need to know about technology today. I'm Megan Maroney.
I'm Jason Howell. You got like all the awesome news on Friday. The whole Whole Foods Amazon thing. When that broke, I was like, they're gonna have a fun show talking about that.
It was fun to talk about. I don't think it's awesome news. I mean,
No,
Amazon's
you don't
going to
like
take
that
over
news.
the world.
Well,
But yeah, it is. We are someday in the very near future, we are going to buy things from no one else but Amazon. Mark my words.
That's the internet as a whole, right? Like everything's combining. The internet unifies the world, so it brings us all on the same scale, and then everything ends up like merging into like, what is the best example of everything? Amazon's the best example of this. Facebook is the best, and by the way, I use it in air quotes actually, best example of social media. So suddenly everybody's on it, and that's no way to live.
I know. I'm going to
variability.
Variability. But I'm going to complain about it, and I'm going to continue to jump on the train. Anthony ordered the Amazon wand. I kept meaning to order it, but then I forgot. And it's coming today, and he said I could take it home and wave it around, and I don't know. Yeah, do whatever. Talk to it and wave it around and order everything from Amazon until I run out of money.
Amazon wand just makes it sound a little more magical than it probably actually is. Although, actually, if we were to go back in time like 20 years ago and show us 20 years ago the Amazon one, it would be magical.
Yeah.
So.
I probably will try to say some Harry Potter spells just
see if it works.
For fun. Yeah.
Yeah. Turn somebody into a cat or something. I don't know.
Shall we get to the news? Tim Cook, Jeff Bezos, speaking of Amazon, Eric Schmidt, Satya Nadella, as well as the leaders of Oracle, IBM, Akami, and others met with President Donald Trump today to discuss improvements to government IT and to review the HB-1 visa program to continue to bring highly skilled workers into the U.S. In total, 20 technology company CEOs attended all-day meetings in D.C. to offer ideas on how to overhaul the government's tech infrastructure. Recode's Tony Rome reports that Tim Cook called for coding to be a requirement in schools, and Jeff Bezos called on the government to use more commercial technology. So according to Rome's article, Trump said the feds had to catch up with the private sector, and he called for sweeping changes.
Sweeping changes. Let's tackle this digital thing that is the internet and basically bring the infrastructure up. Although there's been a little bit of dismantling in recent history of some of that infrastructure, so maybe this is rebuilding it in the new administration's kind of vision of what makes their infrastructure great from a technological perspective. So this is actually seems to be part of kind of a tech week, or this whole month rather. It seems like the administration from an earlier Tony Rome article is really focusing on key points, and this week in particular is focused on tech. This, of course, being kind of the kickoff part of that. This Thursday there's going to be a second round that's going to happen. They're going to talk about kind of emerging technologies, things like drones, autonomous vehicles, 5G, wireless technology, Internet of Things, all that kind of stuff. 30 companies had been reported to be invited to that, including, of course, Google, Amazon, Intel, and a bunch of others. So, so this is kind of just the beginning, but I imagine today was probably the the pinnacle of it because of kind of the high profile people who are being invited into these little workshop breakout groups. It really kind of sounded interesting, like broken out into tables to kind of sit down or into private groups in order to sit down and tackle these issues.
I wonder if they gave them American Technology Council swag.
Red hats, maybe.
Yeah.
It's possible.
Yes, yeah. So there was some talk among the rank and file of employees of some of these companies, like, oh, our CEO should boycott. They shouldn't meet with Trump. And I don't know. I mean, there was no way in heck that all of the CEOs were going to boycott. So my opinion is get in the room, speak your mind, say your piece. And so, yeah, it's... our CEO was not asked. I don't know why to go speak, but if she had been asked, I would have said go there and speak up for podcasts.
I mean, if you have the ability to have a voice and have some sort of influence over things, and you've proven that you're running these corporations, these giant corporations that are built on this technology, they're asking the right people if what they truly want is to, overhaul things and kind of bring it into the next stage. I mean, that's something I think everybody can kind of get behind is the need to do that with infrastructure. And, some of these things also, another part of this was kind of taking it how you can use artificial intelligence, machine learning to analyze how potentially fraud is happening on federal services. So there's a number of these things that these companies have used big data and artificial intelligence in a number of ways. They've got a lot of experience in that way. How can you then transfer that over into solving some of the U.S. government's problems? And so that's a good way to do it. Talk to the right people. Time Warner is working with Snap to bring 10 original shows per year exclusively for Snapchat in a $100 million 2-year deal. Turner Cable Channels, Warner Brothers Studio, and possibly even HBO will be developing shows that run from 3 to 5 minutes and can only be viewed inside the app with vertical video, of course. So, don't be surprised if you see content from Ellen DeGeneres, Samantha Bee, Wonder Woman, and a whole lot more on your Snap TV sometime soon, if that's what you call it. I want my Snap TV.
Will there be men on there?
I don't know. Yeah, I did notice that. They called out. No, there will not be.
Okay, good.
No, I'm pretty sure there probably will be.
Okay.
But that was what they called out in the article. I noticed that too.
Shares were up of Snap, which is good. They were, they had come down to their original $70 a share or something. So if you sold then, sorry, because they're back up. Sell now. Just kidding. I don't give financial advice. And if I did, don't listen to it.
Yes, me too.
It's most likely wrong. So Snap's going to take 50% of the revenue on this, which seems like a lot. And, they used to have the Discover channel where they would, publish newspaper and I guess also video. They used to take only 30%. They used to allow creators to take 70%, but now it's down to 50%. So,
well, they've got to make up for the fact that it's going to be really hard for them to break into this advertising world with Google and Facebook snapping up pretty much the majority of the market there. So they've got to think about other ways to kind of bring value. And maybe this is a way. It's certainly a vote of confidence to have another partner along the lines of Time Warner. They already have partnerships with NBC, ABC, CBS, ESPN, BBC. Well, there's actually quite a few partnerships that they have here. So this is NFL, of course, and it's all about, one of the big things that Snap does have with Snapchat is that they have a lot of young users who aren't on some of the traditional media pathways. They aren't watching live TV. They're not watching the major networks necessarily. They're spending the majority of their screen time on their device. So this is one way for them to make sure that they're reaching that very lucrative market where they are.
Mm-hmm. And so these will be short, you said, right?
Yeah, 3 to 5 minutes from what the article pointed out.
That's sad. Remember when we were young and it's like people were saying our attention span was short?
Yeah, but it's actually not so far outside of the norm. YouTube's been doing this for a really long time, right? You can find all sorts of lengths of video content on YouTube, but I'd say the majority of the content that really gets viral, they get subscribed to and everything, they're targeting it right around 3, 5, 7 minutes. Sometimes I talk to people about how Twit is, on YouTube, and they'll look it up and they'll be like, man, your shows are like an hour long. Like that's too long for YouTube. Like I'm used to finding like a 5-7 minute show. And then of course I tell them about the Twit bits, but that's what especially the kind of the younger generation growing up with this, that's what they know. They're not watching the longer form content on TV. They're watching YouTube.
I don't know. They're watching a lot of Netflix, I think.
Yeah, well, there's that too, right?
So it's, but that's weird too, because it's like, then it's like, okay, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to, binge watch 7 seasons of Grey's Anatomy.
It's the other end of the spectrum.
Yeah. But they are binge watching 7 seasons of Grey's Anatomy at the same time as they're Snapchatting.
Yeah.
So it's multitasking.
Yeah.
Which doesn't work. Listen to your mom. Google is launching a 4-step plan to fight the spread of terrorism in its products, including YouTube. The company aims to take a tougher stance on extremist videos and inflammatory religious content. In a blog post today, General Counsel Kent Walker writes that they are working with government, law enforcement, and civil society groups to tackle the problem. He also said that there is no place for terrorism on their network, and he admits that there is a lot of work to be done. So I'll just run through the 4 steps. 1 is ramping up AI efforts to detect extremist content. 2 is to boost the number of people who screen terrorist-related content. 3, tougher stance on videos that don't immediately violate the terms of service. That one was a little vague. I'm not exactly sure what that means. But 4 is a redirection campaign, so combat the negative with positive.
The tougher stance, from what I understand, is something that is let's say a charged stance, but not fully going over the edge into kind of terrorist, ideals as one example. So basically like walking the fine line between freedom of speech and controlling your network, they're going to withdraw kind of the ability of certain capabilities of that video, certain reach. It's going to call it out with text, from what I understand, to kind of say this is a topic that whatever is flagged for this reason can't be advertised on. They're basically, it's almost like catching the videos that are in between. Holy cow, we can't have any of that on the network, and okay, let it all run free on this. So it's kind of tightening the stance. I'm doing a horrible job of describing it, but how they kind of convey that to the viewer without removing it entirely, because it doesn't quite cross that line, if that makes sense.
So if something doesn't violate the terms of service, but they believe might lead to some sort of extremist, or like it might be propaganda. If it might be propaganda, then they might not let people advertise on it, or
from what I understand,
but not take it down.
Right, exactly.
So that makes sense. So it's like that, it's their network. So free speech doesn't apply there. Like the head of YouTube can take down anything they want whenever they want. It's not that, they're not a public space.
Right.
And they can control it anyway. So they're saying they're allowing that speech to happen even on their network, but they won't promote it.
But it just doesn't quite pass that line of like, okay, we have to, cut this entirely. And also it's a good example of, like we talk a lot about how artificial intelligence has come a long way. It's being used to solve so many problems. But this is Google kind of admitting like AI isn't quite there yet in some of the more nuanced things, especially about this topic. They said AI was used to identify 50% of terror content that it removed in the previous 6 months. And still they need more resources for higher level training. Because at this point AI is good, but it's not perfect for this. It's not perfect for knowing that a video of a terrorist attack might actually be news reporting about the terrorist attack versus glorification of violence by someone who had an ulterior motive. And AI is not good at recognizing that now. So they kind of have to, accept the fact that it needs a little bit more of that nuanced training. So that's kind of part of that. And then also redirecting. I thought this was interesting. Flagging users who are searching for something that's like has the potential of recruiting for ISIS, let's say. They're looking for content that supports that. They would be shown instead anti-terrorism videos that kind of post the other side to hopefully change their mind. And I guess they've tested this, And they say it actually resulted in an unusually high rate of click-through and of watching to the end of these videos. So, that might be a good solution as well. Good way to tackle it anyways. Virtual reality is neat, sure, but even on high-end units, the resolution for each eye is still far behind what we are accustomed to seeing in real life anyways. A Finnish startup named Varho, I believe that's how it's pronounced, has developed a prototype of hardware it plans to market to high-end business customers that tackles this costly problem creatively. And it's kind of hard to explain, so I'll do my best. Through a complex series of magnifiers and mirrors, each eye is given a 0.7-inch display at 3,000 pixels per inch that are then magnified to fill the space with a 20-degree field of view. So it kind of blows that up for you. All of it ends up resulting in a full HD display per eye while in use, which significantly reduces what we're used to seeing in VR right now, kind of the screen door effect that we see today with all the pixels, being blown up so large. Varho says that hardware utilizing what they call the 2020 display should cost under, just $10,000 when it releases sometime next year.
So it's aimed at businesses, obviously.
Yeah.
Although I know you like VR a lot, so I think kids don't have to go to college.
Yeah, that's true. I can make some sacrifices in my life. I would love to see it, at the very least.
So it's led by former Nokia, Rovio, Intel, and Microsoft product managers. So it's got a lot of smarts behind it. I think the human eye comparison photos are pretty interesting that they have on their website. Like you can some of them were on the TechCrunch article, but it definitely looks.
It's more representative of real life.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when you look in VR, when I use VR, you notice that pixelation, pretty significantly. And I've always kind of maintained the idea that VR really needs higher resolution in order to go a bit more mainstream. But I've had a lot of pushback from people about that. And they're like, oh, it's not resolution that's the problem. And I agree, it's not the only problem. But I feel like once you get to the point to where your VR goggle represents as good a reality as your actual reality, that's when it becomes a no-brainer technology. And so I'm looking forward to this. Google's also kind of working on similar problem anyways, but they're tackling it very differently. They're working on increased resolution displays, 10 times more pixels than the current kind of crop of VR, but it requires insane data bandwidth, 50 to 100 gigabits per second of bandwidth, which, you can't even render that much information, let alone transfer it across and do all the things that you'd have to do in real time with next to zero latency, so that it would be fast enough to use without feeling sick. Like that would be really difficult. So they're working on solutions like, I think it's called foveated rendering, where it tracks your eye and where you look is what's actually fully rendered in high resolution, and everything outside of it is less resolution, so it can kind of maximize the data throughput.
Just an explanation on those photos that we were showing. They're examples shot with the same camera, optics, and zoom, a Sony DSC RX100 M4, through the eyepiece of the same Varho modified Oculus CV1 prototype. The cropped pictures show the same region of view, comparing Oculus display to Varho Bionic display. Just
that's such a huge difference.
An explanation of what those photos are.
That's craziness. I think that's a big deal, so I can't wait to see it.
And speaking of alternative realities, IKEA is partnering with Apple to create an AR app to help you see how your furniture will look in your home. Now, this isn't, of course, the first app of its kind, but it might be the first with Apple's AR Kit technology. In a recent interview, Tim Cook gave IKEA a specific shout out, and IKEA says they're hoping to have the app available at the launch of iOS 11 this fall. According to the Swedish website Digital D, or Digital DI, there will be 500 to 600 products available at launch, and selling furniture in the app is a possibility, but not the goal yet. So there's a whole bunch of IKEA folks making their 3D renderings of the furniture so that they'll be available to put in your house through the AR app, the renderings.
I like it. I think this is a real good way for AR to be perceived as kind of something that people have to have in a better way than Pokemon Go was. Pokemon Go was like, here's AR, but it's a game, and it was a really good indication that people are open to the idea of augmenting their reality. This is a very useful thing, right? Like I think it would be very handy. Now, mind you, I don't shop at IKEA very much, and in fact, anything that keeps me out of an IKEA store, I'm all for. So maybe I would actually really love this app. But I think once you actually play around with it a little bit, and you see the corner of your room, and you end up dropping a chair there, and I don't know, it's kind of a magical experience. I would imagine that would be a really great way to sell product.
Yeah, I mean, I've recently, bought some new furniture, and I've used apps like this, the Pair app. That was the one that was talked about on Planet of the Apps, and they've been wonky. And even some you can, as you're shopping around, you can say, see it in your room, and then you take a picture of your room. And I still, it's not augmented enough for me. It's not reality enough for me. Yeah. It's, you have to, because you can't sit in it.
Well, that's true.
You can't see.
They probably won't get there.
Right.
Won't get to the point to where you can actually sit in it.
Why not?
Well, I don't know. That's a whole other layer of reality that they got to figure out. That's not just virtual reality.
That's really what I want. Like when we were playing the Bridge Crew, and you could see your body, and I was wearing the shorts. I was wearing the short. I wanted to touch my arm and stuff.
Yeah, I know.
That's not soon.
There is that. Although I mean, not related to this as much as what we're now talking about, but there are technologies that have integrated kind of surfaces into the controllers that you're using, not on normal scale VR that we have right now, the controllers that we have right now, but there are companies, and I believe we talked about it a little bit last year, that kind of integrate texture and stuff like that to kind of simulate, or resistance, to where if you're wearing kind of a little bit of an exoskeleton sort of attachment, if you push into a wall in a virtual space, it prevents your arm from going any further, and it can virtualize that. So who knows? Maybe you'll climb into your exoskeleton and you will sit down on the couch and you'll know how it feels.
Yeah, I want the virtual reality to feel what my butt feels like in the chair. And I don't think that's too much to ask.
No, it's not too much to ask. Seriously, technology companies, get on it. Quick reminder that you can comment on anything that we discuss by emailing us at tnt@twit.tv. You can also subscribe to the show, and we hope that you do. Tech News Today can be found at our show page, twit.tv/TNT. Up next, that pesky cloud leaks again. But first, let's take a minute to thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. They are the sponsor of today's episode. The mortgage experience was not keeping up with the times. It was dated. It needed a client-focused technological revolution, and that's why Quicken Loans created Rocket Mortgage. That's why Rocket Mortgage exists. Rocket Mortgage gives you the confidence that you need when it comes to buying a home or refinancing your existing home loan. They make it easy. It's simple. It allows you to fully understand all of the details and be confident that you're getting the right mortgage for you, because it's a big jump. It's a big decision. So you want to have that confidence. It's convenient. Their trusted partners allow you to share your financial information with Rocket Mortgage at the touch of a button. So it's easy and convenient. You just touch that button, share it, instead of having to dive into all of your paperwork and find all that information here and there. It's done for you. It's powerful. Whether you're looking to buy your first home or even your 10th, Rocket Mortgage is able to perform thousands of calculations in seconds for you. And based on your income, assets, and credit, Rocket Mortgage can analyze all the home loan options for which you qualify and find the one that's just right for you, for your specific scenario. It's tailored to you. And you can kind of play around with the numbers and everything too to find the fit that's just right. Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans. Apply simply, understand fully, mortgage confidently. To get started, go to rocketmortgage.com/TNT. That's rocketmortgage.com/TNT. Equal housing lender, licensed in all 50 states, and MLSconsumeraccess.org, number 3030. And we thank Rocket Mortgage by Quicken Loans for their support of Tech News Today. If you aren't already plum-tuckered out by all of the times you've heard that millions of identities have been leaked out by X organization, then add this to the list and get back to me when you recover. 198 million Americans' personal voter data was found just hanging out, no big deal, on an unsecured Amazon cloud server. And joining us to pick apart the massive leak is Iain Thomson from The Register. How's it going, Iain?
A little too hot, but apart from that, I'm fine.
Oh, no, you don't have any air conditioning in that office? Or you do, and it's just not powerful enough?
Yeah, we do have air conditioning, but the very first time we needed it this year, it rolled over on its back and stuck all its legs in the air. So, I'm at the moment sweating like a Trump lawyer. So
oh boy, I'm not going to go there. But you said it. Okay, and you know what? Maybe, I don't know, maybe there's some overlap with this story. First, this particular data leak is believed to be the largest leak of U.S. voter data. Again, a phrase I feel like we keep hearing in other terms of different pieces of data that's being leaked out. How was this discovered, and who discovered it?
Okay, this was discovered by a security researcher at UpGuard called Chris Vickery, who's made something of a career out of these sort of things. Earlier this month, he discovered a massive archive of unclassified pictures of the Pentagon had leaked out. And over the last couple of months, he's been doing regular reports on this. Basically, the guy just searches for Amazon S3 instances which haven't been locked down, has a quick look inside and sees what's there. And in this case, he found pretty much every registered voter in the US's name, address, birth date, political preferences, 1.1 terabytes of data. So a massive find, certainly, and he'll be very pleased with that.
If this is okay, so if this is something that this guy just does, just hops around, checks out S3 servers, see what you find, and oh hey, you know, I found something that's actually really bad just hanging out on a publicly accessible server. At what point does it become Amazon's responsibility? I mean, obviously, someone, and we'll talk about it here in a second, you know, was irresponsible in putting that there. But I mean, if this keeps happening with data found on Amazon S3 servers, does Amazon have a responsibility, do you think, to I don't know, make it more secure?
Well, Amazon has two big advantages in this. One, it has very good lawyers, and B, they write very, very good terms and conditions. So Amazon itself isn't really exposed on this. This is purely user error, as it has been in previous cases as well. This is somebody coming up with, oh, we'll stick all this into an S3 bucket, and it'll be fine, and then forgetting to lock it down. And then someone else just wanders across it. It's like, ooh, that's really interesting. Fine, I'm just going to write a little piece on that, and I'll get a bonus from my boss. I mean, he's responsible. Chris is a responsible security researcher, so the chances of this being snaffled by anyone and everyone isn't going to happen, because he will have warned the company beforehand. But it does illustrate quite how much really useful data is just being left out wide open on the web. And anyone with, you know, an Amazon account and a little bit of daring do and some time on their hands can actually go out and find it. And just because Chris found it and reported it doesn't mean that other people haven't found it before that, kept quiet, and quietly harvested the data.
Right. Hold on to it when the time is right. They've got it. What kind of data exactly is in?
We're talking names, address, birth date. I mean, it's tricky because the actual archive itself was 1.1 terabytes, but it was part of a larger archive, which was 24 terabytes. So we've only got about a 20th of the total archive of stuff that was collected on voters. But we are seeing a large number of names, addresses, and birth dates, as well as certain voter preferences that have been worked out by various political polling groups. And taken together, that could be a really handy little bundle of information if you're looking to socially engineer people and convince them that either you're from the government or from the party, or just convince them to give you money for, you know, because they know so much about you. It's the kind of principles that scammers have been working on for centuries.
So the company was Deep Root Analytics. What were they going to use the data for? Why were they keeping all this data? Was it for advertising or what?
Political campaigning. It appears that none of the data in the archive is older than January of this year. So it appears this data was collated and used in the 2016 elections. So the way this is used is basically it allows parties, in this case the Republican Party, to work out which voters are likely to vote in which way and which voters are slightly iffy or on the fence. And then you can target those on the fence voters. You can make sure that your core supporters are being constantly reminded to go out and vote. And you don't have to waste time with people who obviously aren't going to vote for you. I mean, if you're a Republican electoral strategist and someone lists their, you know, and someone is listed as having an interest in Planned Parenthood or, you know, universal healthcare or something like that, you know you're probably onto a loser and you don't need to start hitting these people with adverts. But if someone's, say, a member of the NRA and a veteran, but also believes in a decent healthcare, they could be identified as a swing voter, and they could be targeted with adverts which would fit in with their particular preferences. So, I mean, it's if you look at the level of detail that political targeters are getting into now, they're really trying to get a picture of every individual, stick it onto a big data server, and then they can go through and maximize their effort where they think they're going to get the most bang for their buck in terms of getting votes for their candidate.
Why do you think security, like best security practices, haven't kept the pace as we've kind of entered this world where big data is so much a part of everything online? The marketers, the sites that we use all the time, they're all harvesting this data. Some of them are very secure about it, yet then sometimes, like randomly, you just have the server just hanging on to this entire database with potentially very harmful, damaging information about people that they would not want other people to know. And there appears to be, very little kind of consequence that ends up getting paid as a result of that. Why isn't security, why hasn't it kept up with just the power that big data brings with it?
Well, I think the problem is twofold. Firstly, security is traditionally over the last, up until the last 5 years or so, IT security was its own little department that you went to when you were in trouble and who issued memos about what you should do, which were promptly thrown in the circular filing cabinet and forgotten about. So, I mean, that's changed slightly as security has become more and more part of the IT function. But if you're, say, in this case, a political analyst group, then IT security is not going to be particularly high on, you might have a geek in the office who knows about it. But the kind of people who are compiling these databases probably didn't have a security background or security training, and just didn't even think. It's kind of like the analogy I use occasionally in print is you always keep a spare roll of toilet paper by the toilet just in case the one you've got runs out, and because you know what happens when you don't, and you only make that mistake once. And it's the same with backups, it's the same with security. It's the kind of mistake you only make once, but when you do make it, it's fairly catastrophic. So in this case, I think it was just people collecting and harvesting and working through all this information, and security just wasn't considered to be a factor. They were primarily focused on getting the end result they wanted, and as is so often in this case, made a little bit of a mistake, left one of their buckets front facing with no protection, and anyone could get in there. It is a depressingly common story, and this is going across military, finance houses, programming houses. It happens far more often than it really should.
So, I mean, to Jason's question was, why isn't anyone, I mean, what are the consequences here? Obviously, someone from Deeproot Analytics will probably be fired, but what about Deeproot Analytics itself? Like, should there be a punishment for them?
Well,
I mean, probably people won't,
legally,
maybe people won't use them anymore, but yeah, legally?
Yeah, I mean, legally, it's a very tricky area because case law hasn't been fully established on this. Yes, they're going to find it an awful lot harder to get contracts, but if they're very good at their job, it's not going to be that hard to get contracts. Secondly, I think everybody who develops databases like this will get a little plaque to go over the top of their monitor saying, lock the thing down. And there'll be frequent mental beatings from senior management for people to actually remember this. Basically, this kind of thing is only going to get fixed in sort of leaps and jumps. Somebody makes a mistake like this, you can guarantee that every political analyst group has read this story today and is now panicking, going, have we locked all our systems down? So there's another industry sector who has, sort of cleaned up its act a little bit. Give it 6 months, a year, somebody else comes on board who wasn't around for this one, they may do the same thing again. The problem is any computer security expert will tell you that the main problem with security is the layer 8 problem. You've got 7 network stacks, and then layer 8 is us. And we are the main problem on this. And until people have a constant thing in the back of their mind, how secure is this? How could somebody get into this? How can I lock this down as much as possible? Then we're going to carry on seeing these sort of things come through. Now, it doesn't appear in this case that the damage was too great because it was locked down fairly quickly, and the material itself was incomplete. But that will change, and until people actually stop, think about what they're doing from a security aspect, and then apply that, then journalists like you and I are going to be talking about these stories for many, many years to come.
Well, is there some responsibility on their part not to put this kind of information on the cloud at all? I mean, what is that even possible?
Well, technically it is possible, but it's not really workable because it appears that this data was being shared with multiple political action groups around the US and abroad. So short of sending 24 terabytes of information backwards and forwards across the wires, that's not really feasible in this kind of situation, particularly if you've got 10 or 12 people working on it. So the easy answer, and the answer that the tech industry has been telling us to do for many years now, is stick it all on the cloud. That way everyone can get into it and no problem sorted. The problem is you then got to secure that information, and that was clearly not done in this case.
Right. So basically we should, time and time again, these stories happen. And at some point I'm like, when should I stop being surprised that it happened? Because I mean, this is just the world we live in right now, right? Like, I mean, hacking, data leaks, it's so easy for this information to get out. And yet at the same time, we're trusting all of our important information to exist there. So this is just the way it is, right? We should just get used to it.
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, I remember when California first started talking about having breach notification laws, so that people would have to be alerted when their information was leaked online in this way. A lot of tech companies supported it, but not for the reason you'd think. Now, initially, a lot of tech firms and a lot of firms in general were dead against this. It's like, this is a private matter. We will deal with it internally and inform our customers privately. But then somebody pointed out, well, hang on. The amount of data leaks that go on a day-to-day basis, you're going to get endless alerts, and people will just get used to it. And they'll get used to the idea that, occasionally their data leaks out a little bit. And so a lot of firms actually ended up supporting these disclosure laws because, it's kind of like with Windows Vista. You got so many security panels clicking up that you just clicked OK and the whole thing became useless. Same sort of thing with data breach notification reports. But yeah, I mean, I honestly don't see, other than companies getting an awful lot smarter anyway, or getting a severe financial penalty, which is, let's face it, isn't going to happen from Congress, then we're just going to see this coming again and again and again. Now, you might think, as journalists, we should be happy with this because it gives us stories to write about. But I, for one, am heartily sick about writing these sort of stories where one wazzock just left an S3 bucket open and anyone could get it. It's not particularly technologically advanced. It's not very interesting, but we do have to cover it so that people know they could be at risk.
Yeah.
So, I mean, we keep saying it's so easy, just left this bucket on something. Is it really that easy? I mean, could I go on there? Like, could I be Chris Vickery and just spend some time? Or is it, I mean, is it harder than we're talking about?
No, I mean, obviously he has his own software which he's developed to do this. But I mean, if you look at this archive, it was very innocuous bucket name. You wouldn't, nothing like super secret electoral data or anything like that. It was just a question of trial and error. So it's like bucket. Let's see what's here. See if there's a lot of stuff in there. If there's a lot of stuff in there, maybe I'll take a look at it. Takes a look at it, sees bingo, and that's it. That's your headline. I mean, anybody can do this stuff. And I would be amazed if the intelligence agencies didn't have people doing this 24/7. If they don't, they're really missing a trick because there's a host of good information out there. But, I mean, it's really that simple. Just get yourself an account and go for a trawl. And, some of the stuff you can find in there, as Chris has shown again and again and again, there are volumes of unsecured data out there, which pretty much anyone can get their paws on.
Yeah, and in this case, it was responsible disclosure. Let them know ahead of publicizing this so that they were able to kind of, close off that data and everything. But like you said earlier, you still have no idea who, if anyone, had possibly accessed that ahead of time. You just know that it's not accessible now. And gosh,
I mean, we're talking, this has been open for months.
Yeah.
So, I mean, legitimately anybody could have gone in and got that data, and no one would have known that much about it. I should imagine they're examining their server logs very, very carefully now, just to see in case if they can identify any IP addresses that have got it. But they're not going to be talking about that too much, so we shall see.
Yeah, absolutely. Iain Thomson from The Register. Always love getting you on, man. Thank you so much for coming on tonight. Appreciate it.
Always a pleasure. Have a cooler day tomorrow.
All right. We'll hope so, although I think it's kind of hot through the rest of the week. But anyways, yes, we'll hope for that.
Thanks, Ian. Jay from Oklahoma writes about our discussion of the Xbox One X and how we deemed it a miss in name and place. This might have been Nate and I who deemed it a miss, or might have been just been Nate. Due to the console specs, this is the letter. Due to the console specs, Jay writes, I believe that $499 is the lowest price that Microsoft could list the console, and I believe it is an acceptable price point for the demographic being targeted. Those who will buy this console are those who already own a 4K TV and care, are savvy to specs, resolution, teraflops, FPS, etc. It will not be a replacement to the One S, but a luxury item. As to the name, shrug, Xbox Scorpio would have been better. I agree with you there, Jay. Yes, I guess that is kind of what Nate said, that this is something, this is a sort of, like you said, a luxury item, something that people will want to have, the same people who upgrade their iPhones every year, that kind of thing.
Right. And if you're just getting in, just save another month and get that extra cost between the lower price unit and you'll be happy you did. But maybe you don't have a 4K TV and it doesn't matter. I would love to say that I care a lot about teraflops, by the way, as you spelled out in your email. So
you need a T-shirt that says I care a lot
about teraflops. TNT's fan of the day is Soren Madsen, who's been here a few times, this time enjoying TNT whilst at the racetrack. Says, watching Porsche Carrera Cup before Le Mans starts at Circuit de
Desert. Well, Circuit de
Deuxième Quatre? No. Oh, man, my French
24?
Yeah, what is it? I used to know.
No, what's 24 in French?
I used to know this.
What's 24 in French? Burke's not being helpful today.
It's okay, but we'll just translate it. Circuit de 24 hours. There we go.
What is 24 in French?
Oh, here we go.
Here's what I found on the web for
Oh, Siri doesn't.
Thank you, Siri.
Oh, yeah, whatever. I meant to go back to this in prep, but I forgot. Anyways, happy you sent that in, and I'm happy that you probably know how to say that. Shows that you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup. Post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we'll find it. You're still trying to get her to say 24 in French.
How do you say 24 in French?
Okay. How do you say 24 in French? Oh, come on. Come on. You can do it. Jeez.
I was asking Google Assistant. Dale Poco in the chat room. Much faster is 24. 24.
24.
Oh my goodness. I took 4 years of high school French. I am so embarrassed.
I know. Me too.
Hey, graphic designers. A robot is about to steal your job. According to Inc. magazine, Nutella used an algorithm to redesign its packaging, and it was a smashing success. Using machine learning, the company was able to create unique designs for 7 million jars with no two labels alike. In their inspirational video on YouTube, Nutella says they wanted to make a label that was as expressive and unique as the Italian people.
Go down just a little bit more, and there's a little video right there. Go ahead and play that. And yeah, I got to say, it looks pretty good.
Each bottle is also stamped with its own unique code, so it can be authenticated by collectors.
But you can't ever collect all of them.
No, but if you were going to say I have one of the unique ones, like if I brought 944, and to prove that they're all unique.
Okay.
I mean, and who says you can't collect all of them?
I don't know. So how many in total again?
4 million? 4,000?
Or whatever. Far too many for collectors. Although there's probably one person out there that's just obsessive enough to pull this off, but I doubt it.
Okay, yes. Bleak in the chat room is offended that a robot might take his job. Yes, patterns are not graphic designs. We still need you, graphic designers. We still need you.
I don't know, Blake. Patterns could be considered graphic design. Yeah, that's probably up for debate. And if you want to debate it, you can. TNT at twit.tv.
They sold out in 1 month. I mean,
what?
People, yeah.
I mean, they look odd. That's really cool. I want more of that. That's a nice looking label. I would actually. What do you say, Burke? You say it's going to cost more to print that way? Well, yeah. Yeah, they're going to take a hit, but we're talking about Nutella on a technology podcast because of it. Like, I never saw that coming. So, and it's also really good.
I'm allergic, so no.
Thanks, Kevin.
Kevin's buzzkill Kevin. I'm very sad for you, Kevin, because I love Nutella.
Get excited about this.
Nutella is really good. You're missing out. Sorry. TNT records live every Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 2300 UTC at twit.tv/live. Be part of the show by emailing us, tnt@twit.tv. Leave us a short voicemail at 260-TNT-SHOW. And find us on Twitter at TechNewsTodayTV.
And if you are allergic to nuts like Kevin, we want to know. Share your thoughts on the stories we discuss in the TNT subreddit at technewstoday.reddit.com, and find all the ways to subscribe to our show at twit.tv/TNT. And if you want to tweet at me about what having a hole in your Amazon bucket means, please do. I'm at Megan Maroney.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Thanks to our editor normally, and then now today, our TD, Kevin, a.k.a. the guy you just heard who's allergic to Nutella. So if you want to write him and tell him what he's missing out on, I'll pass him the email, TNT@twit.tv.
If you are also allergic and you want to have some empathy for Kevin.
Yeah, that's true. Okay, that too. That works. Thank you, Kevin. Appreciate it. Thanks to Burke for helping out in the studio here as well. And there you go. There he is, kind of. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. We'll see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everybody.